Thanks again, Ray Otis, and back here at the RBC Center as the Hurricanes conclude their 3-game homestand. It's time for another edition of Kaiton's Corner, where you ask the questions, we try to provide the answers to you. All you have to do is send your question along. Anything about hockey, whether it's about the history, rules, anything about the players, anything that's been on your mind about our great game of hockey, whether you're a veteran fan or a new fan, we'd love to hear from you. Chuck and the letter K at CarolinaHurricanes.com is the way you can email us. That's Chuck K at CarolinaHurricanes.com, and we'll answer your question on a future second intermission, as we will tonight for a couple of fine inquisitors. And the first one is Tricia DeMayuga of Montreal, PQ, Canada. Tricia, thanks very much for your listening. I hope you're a loyal Hurricane fan. And if you are up in Montreal, you may be taking your life into your own hands, but we certainly appreciate that. And even if you're not a Hurricane fan, if you're a hockey fan, that's just as well, too. She says, I hope you had a great summer. Yes, I did, Tricia. And I was wondering what Cam Ward's real name is, because in some websites they say his real name is Cameron Kenneth Ward, but I wasn't sure if that was really his name. I'm a big fan of the Hurricanes and would like to know what his real name is, and it is. We'll answer all these questions for you, and technically, if his name were in the phone book, it would be Cameron Kenneth Ward, and that middle name is his father's first name. Just thought I'd let you know. So, Tricia, thank you very much for your question. We're here to try to confirm for all of you. Next is Edward Itzkowitz of Lakeland, Florida, who wants to know how I became interested in becoming a hockey broadcaster. What sport's easiest or hardest to do for a play-by-play man? Because I think Ed's done his homework and realized that I've done more than hockey in my broadcasting career. Which broadcasters in the past have I enjoyed the most, and what NHL arenas have I not broadcast from? Well, I can tell you, Ed, I was never in the Mutual Street Arena in Toronto when Foster Hewitt started back in the 1920s. I can confirm that. I never broadcast a game, at least on the NHL level, at my own home bailiwick, the Detroit Olympia. I did an NCAA championship game there between Wisconsin and Michigan back in 1977, but I never had the pleasure of working in my old home rink where I watched many a game as a kid, Olympia Stadium. My first year in the NHL was the 79-80 season, and in the middle of that year, the Red Wings moved into Joe Louis Arena and had the Hartford Whalers had the Quebec Nordique schedule. I would have been ecstatic because that would have been the last game at the old Detroit Olympia. And it would have been a pleasure to broadcast an NHL game. It would have been a dream come true. But that is one arena that I never broadcast from. There's a number of them. Old Madison Square Garden, obviously. The one that used to be on 9th Avenue and 48th, I believe. Never broadcast in that arena. I did games in the Montreal Forum, and obviously Maple Leaf Gardens, and all the other arenas that exist today, obviously, I have broadcast in. But of the old celebrated arenas in days gone by, even the Chicago Stadium, which isn't around anymore, was a rink that I did broadcast from. So I'd have to say there are no arenas that exist today that I never did a game from. What broadcasters in the past that I've enjoyed the most? Well, I really idolized Danny Gallivan, the old Montreal Canadian announcer, who is now deceased. He had a special way with words and a special excitement in his delivery that brought the game to the forefront, and I tried to in a lot of ways take stylistically some of his type of on-air attitude, I guess is the best way to put it, into my broadcasts. Dan Kelly, the late Dan Kelly, the former St. Louis Blues announcer, who many of you in the United States would remember did games on the USA Network back in the 70s, CBS. He was one of my idols as well, and one of the broadcasters I've enjoyed the most. And obviously Foster and Bill Hewitt. Growing up in Detroit, I got radio and television broadcasts, and so Foster and his son Bill, who, by the way, will posthumously be put into the broadcasters wing of the Hockey Hall of Fame in a couple of weeks, were two other broadcasters I enjoyed. I enjoyed the late Gene Hart, the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers, and Bob Wilson, who is now retired in New Hampshire, the former Boston Bruins. I could go on and on with many broadcasters, and there's a couple that I really enjoy today that are senior to me in the National Hockey League. One of them is Mike Lang in Pittsburgh, who does an absolutely fantastic job, and so does Bob Miller with the Los Angeles Kings, both of whom I have not only been able to enjoy as broadcasters but can call my friend. What sports are the easiest and the hardest to do play-by-play? Well, a lot of people think it's hockey, but I don't think it is. In my personal opinion, I always thought that doing baseball would be the toughest game, and I did a lot of college baseball. I did college football at the University of Michigan and the University of Wisconsin in the Big Ten, and I found that to be pretty easy. It was very exciting on football Saturdays. I didn't do any tailgating, contrary to popular belief, but it was very, very wonderful to be part of Big Ten football. And I became a hockey broadcasting interest by just growing up with the game, and lucky to be living in Detroit, Michigan, one of the original 6 cities of the NHL, and gravitated to this job basically out of high school when I used to work at a student radio station at the University of Michigan, and I was hooked, and I was obviously hooked on the game of hockey. So, Ed, thanks for your question. I know we've got to run along here. Ed Itzkowitz of Lakeland, Florida, and Tricia Demayuga of Montreal with your questions tonight. We'll do it again tomorrow night when the Hurricanes take on the Islanders in New York. Another edition of this program, just send your question along to Chuck K at CarolinaHurricanes.com. That's Chuck and the letter K at CarolinaHurricanes.com. Provide us with your full name, where you're emailing from, and we'll answer your question on a future Kaiton's Corner. I'm Chuck Kaiton.